Lots of talk that the election is in the bag for Labor and the Greens and the left. It isn't. Polls are just polls, and even news polls' sample size isn't that big. And they've been hugely wrong in the past. Don't forget how Bill Shorten was supposed to win in 2019, and never underestimate the power of the quiet Australians who watch this show. The minor parties and One Nation are polling at 19% collectively, and many of the minor parties are right-leaning. You can vote for them with Australia's preferential voting system, and if they don't win, your vote will still then count for the major party that you put highest up in your rankings. So if you sit on the right side of politics, you can lodge a protest vote even to the Liberal Party and say that we're going to vote for the Libertarians, we're going to vote for Gerard Rennick's People's First or Palmer's Trumpet of Patriots or One Nation, and then put the Liberal and National Party or LNP if you're in Queensland next. Your vote will still count for them if the minor party candidates don't get up, but we get a chance of getting some important, clever, smart minor party candidates up and into the Senate in particular. So the Senate's particularly important, and we've got 3 minor party Senate candidates here with us today on the show. We have joining us on the line from Melbourne, the Libertarians' top Senate candidate for Victoria, Jordan Ditloff, someone we really need to get in. We also have Senator Gerard Rennick, formerly LNP in Queensland, but People's First Party now, and Rob McMullan, the Senate candidate for the Trumpet of Patriots, and a regular commentator on the other side, joining me in the studio in Brisbane. Next week, we will speak to 3 other minor party candidates, including New South Wales lead candidate for One Nation. Gerard Rennick, tell us basically your view on government and the size of government. I always say on this show that, government and bureaucracy is always going to keep borrowing money and feeding itself and making itself bigger. It has no incentive to do otherwise. How do we keep the size of government small when government holds the purse strings?
Well, that's, as I said in the prior segment, basically we need to get people out of the ballot boxes to vote for new parties or minor parties that are prepared to actually do something about it. I mean, we've seen Peter Dutton, I was quite surprised to see this happen. The Liberals actually backflipped on getting bureaucrats to go back to work in the office. Now, I wouldn't have thought that was a hard decision to make. I would have thought, the employer had the right to say to the employee, if we want you to work in the office, you've got to work in the office. It's the employer, our taxpayer. It's the taxpayer that pays the employee, or the employer pays the employee to work under his direction. That's why you pay them. It doesn't really, it doesn't bode well when we see the coalition being so weak on what should be a very simple argument to make, is that the default position is you should go back to work in the office. Now, fair enough, if you've been there for a couple of years or you've established the fact that you can be productive and you know your job well enough to do it from home, I'm not against people working from home, but the default position needs to be you need to work in the office until you can prove otherwise, right? Now, if the coalition can't sell an argument as simple as that, they are never going to take the hard decisions to reform our government. But, People First, for example, we want to have a Federation Convention that looks at eliminating the duplications of roles and responsibilities between state and federal governments.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Don't need 2 education departments, 2 environment departments. I call this was the first thing I addressed in my maiden speech. The ambiguous responsibilities between state and federal governments in this country, and the vertical fiscal imbalance is killing this country stone cold dead, and it has to stop.
Well, the problem, this is the problem, right? We've just got this monster that keeps growing and feeding itself because it's incentivized to do so. There's no force that's saying get smaller. And then when you get a politician, this is what cracks me up, you get a politician that comes up and says, oh, we're going to cut the public service, and then it's a hue and cry.
Well, okay, so we just need to be careful with the language we use here, right? There's the public service and there's the bureaucrats, right? So in terms of, I said this last time I was on the other side, this is where Campbell Newman went wrong, right? You don't touch your front end. You don't touch your nurses and your teachers, right? We've got a growing population. I don't know why you would need to cut front-end services if you've got such a growing population. That makes no sense.
Right.
And I touched on this in my maiden speech. It is wrong that we're shutting down maternity wards in the regions here in Queensland when we have 9 growing health bureaucracies in this country. So let's be very clear. I totally support our front-end work, our frontline services, and we need them. They are an important part of government, and that is the part of government I believe in, right? So I 100% behind those front-end workers. It's the backroom bureaucrats who don't serve the people like our front-end workers do, but who are trying to control us. And they sit there and they are a hammer looking for a nail that are basically like, you take the COVID issue, right? COVID's moved on, everyone's moved on, but there's still a bureaucracy now dealing with COVID. And of course, they're leaking to the media all the time saying, oh, look, there's another new virus just around the corner, right? Be scared, go and get another shot, right? So this is the problem with a lot of these bureaucratic departments. They're created and then they become hammers looking for nails. I mean, the AFP is a classic example with these hate crime laws. Crime is dealt with by the state police force. It is not a federal issue. Yet we saw in the last or second last sitting in Parliament, more hate crimes laws introduced.
Yeah.
Okay, now putting aside the whole civil liberties side of it, right, you don't need your federal government passing laws on violent crimes because that is dealt with by the state police forces. And it's Chris Minns and his police forces dealing with the caravan plot. But why, yeah, and that was another, this is one of the reasons why the coalition, I still think, will lose the election. They have replicated Anthony Albanese's first 18 months where he focused on the voice. They have then gone down the whole Israel Gaza issue, and they've spoken more about that in the last 18 months than they have on the cost of living. And they've taken it to the extreme whereby they jumped on that bomb plot in the caravans, let's bring in more hate crimes bills. They backed in the online safety stuff. Now, admittedly, they did vote against the disinformation bill, not because they didn't have their own bill, just because they didn't like their version of Labor's bill, right? But yet again, we have a coalition government, or coalition party that is not doing what they say they are doing, which is actually having the courage to take on the size of the bureaucracy, not talking about front-end services, the bureaucracy. And the Canberra bureaucracy is so easy to attack or go after because half the bureaucracy works in Canberra. So you've only got to go after those people there, and it's not hard. There's so many. So not just do we need to streamline the...
It's not hard, you reckon?
Yeah.
They're pretty powerful.
Well, see, I disagree. If you get your language right,
glad to hear that.
Get your language right. Use your language.
Yep.
And we have a policy. We want a means test the defined benefit scheme for retired public servants. Right? It is absurd how much those people are getting paid. And of course, the irony of it is the people that earn the most get paid the most in retirement. That's not what a pension should be. The pension should help poorer people, not richer people. Those poorer people that got out of bed throughout their working careers and went to work anyway, even though they were getting paid peanuts to do it. They're the ones we need to be looking after with a pension, not wealthy bureaucrats.
Senator, thank you. Rob McMullan, Trumpeter Patriots. The question of size of government. What are your views?
I agree with Gerard largely. I mean, we've talked about things that are natural monopolies. You don't want heaps of roads everywhere, so I don't want a market of roads. I'm happy for it to be a natural monopoly that's accountable to the people, the sovereign entity of the country. So I think there is definitely a role for government. I agree about frontline workers, but the government needs to get out of ideological spending. If you've got an ideology, pay for it yourself, and they need to get out of the middle class, I guess, market for goods and services. I mean, libertarian philosophy is that, you know, markets create equilibriums. They perfect products and, you know, goods and services.
And pricing equilibrium. And
that's right. But the reason they do that is because it lets substandard goods and services go the way of the dodo. But that's not how a society runs. We don't want families and people themselves to go the way of the dodo. So I think you'll find that there is a huge demand for investing in people and families as well. So I think you can't just take market philosophy and apply it to a society as a whole. However, we are definitely way over the lefty sort of redistributionist side, and we need to go back the other way. I'm just saying I'm not a full libertarian. The other thing I've made too, and it's a debate I'd be happy to have with Jordan, is that libertarian philosophy itself is a monopoly. It's a monopoly of civilizational strategy, whereas, you know, Gerard's talked about some sort of public bank as a competitive market to the private bank. So actually, public and private are a market in themselves, and that once again will find equilibrium, will find price. So look, we need to have I agree, the bureaucracy's out of control. The unelected bureaucrats, they're just taking us all for a ride, and they are getting paid way too much and self-serving.
I think small business people are getting sick to death of it. I think we're sick of paying the taxes. We're sick of carrying these mongrels.
I've made the point in the show too that small businesses where it's at, you want to incentivize people in a small business because you're customer facing, you're training people into responsibility and reciprocity. Whereas you get big government, big corporations, there's just such a barrier between people and customers and that personal responsibility thing. I'm a huge advocate for small business. I think it's
absolutely.
really
I
good.
think it's the answer. Yeah. Jordan, this is your home turf. I mean, as a Libertarian Party, go for it.
I understand the points Rob's making, and I understand Gerard's position, and this is somewhere that we do differ. Small business doesn't need government investment. It doesn't need encouragement. It needs government to get out of the way. It needs government to stop dragging it down under the crippling, crushing weight of black, red and green tape. I understand the sensitivities around the terminology of cuts and public service. I understand that most Australians don't understand how much of the government bureaucracy is unproductive. But the arguments Gerard's making work at a state level. At a federal level, the federal government delivers almost no direct services, no nurses, no teachers. We are not talking about a political bureaucracy in Canberra that is sort of a touchy-feely thing that people care about and love. If people knew the true extent and the true waste and the true scale, and going beyond the immediate actual APS employees, you have the consultant class, you have the growing NDIS employment pool. All of these things should be on the table, and it doesn't need a softly approach. It needs a chainsaw taken to it. Because
we need a Javier Milei Argentina or an Elon Musk USA.
Indeed, because we've had decades upon decades of growth. We've never had the needle meaningfully move backwards, and that owes to the last term of Howard. Unfortunately, Howard was a great man and did many good things, but in his last term, when he had both houses of government under his control, that went its natural course, and the absolute power he had led to a growth in the public service that we haven't seen even paused, let alone reversed since.
Well, putting the administrative burden of taxation onto the small business person and taking it off the bureaucracy of the tax office was not a good thing. John Howard did a very bad thing, I think, doing that and putting small business people under so much pressure with even more paperwork to do and accounting, and it's got to stop.
I do agree with Jordan about small business.
Okay. I've got to get you guys back on the show, haven't I? All of you, actually, to have a big discussion about government and the role of government. I think this one could have been a 50-minute topic at a show in its own.
It could.
But thank you all very much for your time. A quick final 30 seconds for each of you. I'll start again with you, Senator, being the incumbent Senator for Queensland and hopefully remaining in that role, I hope, after this coming election. Unfortunately, you are competing against Malcolm Roberts from One Nation, as well as from the Liberal Party, and it looks like is that right? Am I right?
Yeah, it's only one of
only one of you
probably going to get it. It looks like Labor, if Peter Dutton doesn't lift his game in the next 2 weeks, so it's at the margins these things matter. Yeah. So when we got in 2019, there were 3 LNP, including myself, and then Malcolm, so there were 4 Conservative senators, and then 1 Labor, 1 Green. If Albanese picks up, it doesn't look at this stage, it will be like a Bill Shorten election. There's a fair chance at this stage that Labor will get a senator back. It's not a given, but that is a risk. Right. So that's the fear. So they'll actually get another senator in the Senate.
Okay, so if you're on the Senate right in Queensland, your vote really matters in the Senate. Get that Senate paper right.
Yeah, and you've got to, like I said, you've got to vote for a minor party. I would argue, vote for people first. I think we've got better solutions. I think I'm younger and I'm inconsistent. I mean, One Nation support compulsory superannuation. I've listened to Malcolm Roberts for years slag off BlackRock, and now here he is back in compulsory superannuation. I mean, it's that type of intellectual dishonesty, which is why you need people first there, because I don't think that One Nation have the economic solutions or really understand how the economy works to actually fix the problems that the Australians are facing.
But you could work in partnership with them on other things, I guess.
I could, yeah. Well, we tried to. I mean, but One Nation. I mean, this recent thing where we tried to work with preferences and everything. One Nation didn't really pick up the phone at all and talk to the other minor parties. This is the problem, and we don't know what the progression is for One Nation.
We're having One
both
Nation
Pauline and Malcolm are going into their 70s, asking for another 6 years, and there's questions marks around how long Malcolm's going to stay there. So. What is One Nation's transition plan? We have a plan. We have a vision. We're going to set up divisions in every state. We are aiming to get 12 senators into the Senate, and then we're going to aim to get the balance of power when the Conservatives are in government, so we hold them to account, just like I did when I was in the Liberal Party, so I'm a proven performer. Yep. We then want to go and take the lower house seats. And we've got vision. We're going to be collaborative. We're not going to be polarising. And I think people first is the way forward.
Yep. Okay. And you've got a long-term vision, a long-term plan there. Jordan, the Libertarians, just a final minute, I guess.
Yeah. Look, I'm 38. I am the generation of people who are bearing the brunt of this decades-long legacy of mismanagement. Young people want to see hope. They want to see future. They want to see someone like themselves in me have a seat at the table in Canberra and in the Senate. And the Libertarians more broadly are a party of principle. We're a party that doesn't have a sort of a cult of personality or a rich patron that sort of limits our ability to grow. We've already got divisions in every state. We've got a genuine grassroots movement. We've got vigorous branches, and we're going to be growing, not going away.
All right, Jordan Ditloff from the Libertarian Party in Victoria, and Trumpet of Patriots, Rob McMullan, Queensland. Final minute, mate.
Like I said, I'd urge your listeners to consider the cost of not being involved in politics, and we've got some fine gentlemen here. Your listeners should also remember you can't waste your vote. There's no splitting the Conservative vote. You could vote for us. You could put my name down as an individual candidate and put whoever else after that if we get eliminated. But what you're actually doing there is sending a signal that you like the policies, you like obviously maybe us as people or the things that we're saying. And hopefully, we get in and make a positive change for the country. But even if we don't, that's a big signal that everybody looks at.
And it's a signal that matters.
It is a signal that really matters.
Yeah.
It really matters. Whereas if you just do more of the same, you're telling them just keep doing more of the same.
Yeah.
And as I said, I do have a genuine concern that right now we don't have a functional society. And in the future, I think it's going to get worse and more people are going to feel it. So think very carefully about how you order things and send those signals that you're not happy.
Yeah, okay. And you can vote above the line, right? So you put 1 to 6, I think, you have to put 1 to 6 above the line for the party groups, and then your vote goes to the party candidates in the order that the party has them. That's the quick and easy way to do it. The slower way to do it is to number at least 12. You can number them all if you want to, but 1 to 12 at least below the line, and that way you can go to individuals. I think you're second on the Trumpet of Patriots ticket, so if I wanted to vote for you, I'd have to go down the line. Okay, and then... Okay, got it, right. Okay, I don't want to show any preferences here, but you guys are all worth voting for.
Just make sure your how to vote cards don't get hacked.
Yeah, that's... Okay, and the how to vote cards are there as a guide only, folks, so you get to decide how you want to vote. And then you can put your, if you think, oh, well, I don't want to vote for a minor party because my vote can be wasted. That is a lie. That is wrong. You can vote for all the minor parties and then put your major party you like next. You can put the Liberal Party, the National Party, the Labor Party, Greens if you want. But you put them next, and then you should be, your vote will count for them if the minor party candidates don't get up, if that makes sense. In the Senate, we're electing 6 people in every state, right? So you get, 6 bites of the cherry. So make sure, you do put them in order and think about that quite carefully on that Senate ballot paper. All right, well, look, we are probably well over time, but thank you very much, gentlemen. Rob McMullan, Trumpet of Patriots, Senator Gerard Rennick, People First Party, and Mr. Jordan Ditloff in Melbourne for the Victorians, for the Libertarians. And we'll be back next week with 3 more minor party candidates, including One Nation next week as well. So please do join us for that. See you then. You may have noticed if you've been overseas on holiday recently that you can log into your streaming services like Netflix or Prime in other countries, but the shows they offer are different and sometimes even better. You're paying good money for those subscription services. Why can't you watch? Well, with a virtual private network or VPN, you can log in from home here in Australia with an internet address from anywhere in the world, and big corporations and big government can't see where you are. Now, to be clear, criminals can still be actively found with police warrants, of course, but the average honest citizen will have their location protected from prying eyes of corporate marketers and government bureaucrats. If you sign up now with private internet access, we think they are the best VPN service out there. That's private internet access. As a viewer of The Other Side, you can get 83% off the price of your subscription and get online for less than $3 a month. Check it out right now. Go to piavpn.com/otherside. That's piavpn.com/otherside. It's a great service and a rock bottom price, and you're helping keep the other side going and growing. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damian. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.